Somehow, Thursday starts in an F-250. Apparently the hot water heater in our garage ruptured last night. Yeah, there's water all over the floor and no hot water. So, started calling around and getting quotes. Hot water heaters themselves, you got two options. You got your big old tank, old school style, which is something like a fifth the price of the new tankless system that we had a friend who just went through this, and he did all the research on ROI, and it looks like a 10-year return. So, you pay a lot more up front and you don't realize savings for a decade. So we've decided to just go with the old school tank system, and that involved renting the Home Depot truck, 2020 F-250, without a box on the back. This is just the big pickup truck version. And went over to Home Depot, got ourselves a 40-gallon ream. So that's in the garage now. We're gonna have to do the installation tonight because we've got too much work to do today. But the logistics of getting a hot water heater there and getting rid of the old one are done. Got new supply hoses. It's natural gas, a new gas line, plumbing on the check valve, overflow valve, whatever that is going to be a challenge, just because they've moved the location from the top over to the side, so we may need an extension hose. And unfortunately, it's welded on there, so we can't just change the hose to a longer one easily, anyways. But the labor, they want $2,200 labor to install the tank, which does seem extreme. That's probably an hour, maybe two, worth of work by a technician. And I realize they're going to come in a truck and bring the thing to you and take the old one away. And they're probably going to have soldering or welding equipment there in the truck and do a nice clean job. But $2,200, geez, oh Pete. So the truck rental is $19 and the tank is $8 something plus new supply lines. Wow. All right, I'm gonna get this thing to the gas station, fill her up, return it, pick up the M5 and get back to work. So this is not good. The filler hose here has been cut. That's been cut with a knife, that rubber part that goes into the tank. So I can't fill that up safely at all. And finally, Sepang is gone. He picked that up today, so that's good progress. On the fuel car, which is this one, exhaust is back on, drive shaft, all of that. Back up and running. Went out for the initial test drive today on the way to the post office and found that higher RPM power was severely lacking. So I'm thinking, what is the fuel pump not right? We're not getting adequate fuel pressure. I couldn't get any codes to come up in the DME. So then I started troubleshooting what would cause an engine to lose power with high revs. So you need more air, you need different timing, you need more fuel. So assuming everything with the brand new fuel system is okay, we move on to the air. The air filters are quite dirty and the MAFs are original. So we swapped in another set of MAFs and engine air filters, and the power comes back. So recommended that to the customer. He's declining that service, which is surprising because the car's running beautifully minus that, and it's probably about 2/3 power, I would say, half maybe. It's significant with those MAFs being that bad. So we'll just let him take care of that. He's going to be picking up Monday. We have a couple little loose ends to finish up on this car, a little bit of a cleanup, and then it'll be on its way. The evening over here, we started later in the day than I wanted to. Everything got pushed back today. It's on Nate's 2008 M5. Got cleaned up a little bit today, vacuumed out some pine needles and whatnot. And then we tore the car apart. Subframe's over here. Subframe comes out in about 2 hours with 3 people working quite efficiently. 6 big bolts hold the subframe in, and then a million little 10mm fasteners everywhere. So we just took off the top motor mount nuts. Those are 216s. And we debated just dropping the entire suspension and wheel carriers and all of that at once, but then it'd be really big and difficult to maneuver. So we decided not to do that and just kind of take the ball joints out from the straight arms and the tie rods. Curved arms are still in the car and just hanging out there to the side. Left everything attached to the struts. 2 lines for the steering rack come out, and those are supposed to be screwed in a few places. This is like the 3rd time this car's been apart, and some of the fasteners were incorrect or missing. And then the oil pan comes off. That's got about 1 billion 10mm fasteners all around it. What's annoying is BMW chose to bolt everything all the accessory lines, power steering hoses, just all the extra stuff bolts to this. So you've got to undo all of that. We've been really good about putting all the fasteners back in where they go, so there's less chance of getting the wrong one somewhere. Some of that information's in my head, which we'll be digging into tomorrow, Nate. But it's off for a high-pressure Vanos pump. We think that's the issue. We had some metallic flake in the oil, and then he had noted a power drop in some rev range, which is par for the course on that issue, I guess. But now we're looking at the bottom of the engine and the rod caps and the oil pump. There's the oil pump chain, and this would be the high-pressure Vanos pump there in the front. It's got 2 pickup screens, one in the front, one in the back. They're both clean. There's one little shaving of aluminum thread in there that will pull out. But there's inside the engine. Let's turn the lights on. Get a better look in here. 157,000 mile S85. We can see the wrist pin right there on cylinder number 7. We can get a good look at the cylinder wall back here on cylinder 9. And it is just beautiful from what I can see here. There's no scoring, no lines in there, no marks. Looks really healthy. And then it looks like our rod bolts here are 12 millimeters, which are strange. So I'm going to let him be responsible for all that, break them free by hand, get all the bearing shells out, get those replaced. So far, not too scary. There's a big counterweight on the front of the crank. Just clean, you know, a little bit of varnish in here to be expected after this age, but nothing troubling yet. Gotta look at those spaghetti headers, thing of beauty. I don't know, not really that miserable. We followed the FCP video just for guidance. We did not take out the fan yet, the electric fan or the radiator cover up on top. I don't know that we'll need to. Maybe during reassembly, because we took off the belt tensioner here for the AC belt, and that's going to be difficult to tension and screw back into the oil pan. Though I think we can just get a 16 mil wrench up in there, and that's the tensioner right there. So we'll just put some force on that and get the belt loose. Hardest thing about the pan were these really long Torx bolts that come up in here, and they're T30s that go into these 4, they look like M6 thread, M6 by 1 threads. And my long screwdriver was enough to get the outer ones, and you can use a screwdriver in an open end like 24 mil and use that as kind of a socket. And these are low torque, probably 71 or 89 inch-pound bolts. But the longer ones, the screwdriver probably made it up to about here, which was not enough to bite the thread or bite the Torx fitting on the bolt. So I had to get creative with a Torx Allen key and pliers to break those free, but I do want to invest in a 1/4 or 3/8 inch drive, really long T30 socket, so I can actually torque stuff to spec and not have to go little 1/4 turn at a time and take 5 minutes to get one bolt out. But we're going to leave this pan here overnight, let things continue to drip, and then Nate's coming down tomorrow to do the Vanos pump and rod bearings. If things go well tomorrow, we'll have the engine sealed up again, and if things go really well, we'll have the subframe, front subframe back in, and suspension connected and all that. And in a pipe dream, he'll be driving the car, but we've got a lot of work to do, a lot of torquing of suspension components, and we had this all sitting apart, but then he had a parts delay on something from Dr. Vanos, so we kind of had to just put it back together loosely so we could move the car around the shop and free up the lift. Keeping parts pretty organized here. Those are the subframe bolts. The rear 2 are the shortest. Had to take off a few heat shields, the air boxes, which we've done a million times. This is the bracket for the AC belt tensioner that goes on the oil pan. There's the stiffening plate. Those 5 bolts will need to be replaced since they're torque to yield bolts. These are all the oil pan bolts here, and these are these long Torx that I was talking about in the rear. The rest of them are just standard 10 millimeter 8.8 grade M6 by 1 threads. The rest of the parts are on this service cart here in bags labeled with what they are. My 540's at a bit of a standstill as we wait for tools. Supposed to deliver Monday. Monday didn't happen. Then they tendered it to USPS Select, who has completely lost the package and take no responsibility for it. So I ordered another set of what I need to get that front crank hub 27 mil off, which are due Tuesday. So hopefully the latter part of next week will be a lot of work on this car. Once we get the lower timing cover off, then it's just a matter of disassembling the Vanos sprockets and the chains and the guides, replacing that, and building everything back in the reverse order in which it came apart. And as far as I know, I have all the parts. You know how that goes. You get about halfway through and, oh, we need an O-ring, you know, and if it's after 2 p.m., I can't get stuff same day, so that pushes us yet another day. But I have plans to be taking this car on a bit of a road trip in less than 2 weeks, so next week needs to be crazy productive. Got a new tap and die set here. The best ones per, was it drive? Jalopnik, one of those websites had a really nice review, and the Tekton ones were the best rated ones, and they're not available anywhere. So Craftsman offered the best kit at a good price. It's metric and SAE. Really, I just want metric, but it's nice to have them all. It is a 75-piece set, which is way better than the Harbor Freight set that we've been using. And of course, it arrives damaged. I can't order anything and receive it or have it show up in one piece. It's so frustrating. But it is here. The tools aren't damaged. It's just the case and kind of this one hinge that is already just totally falling apart. And I know that Craftsman is not what it used to be. Everything's made in China. But when you pay for something, I expect it to arrive in at least one piece. Lastly, on the 540, this guy showed up today. This is the pedal box sealing, the European style with these slots here. Haven't cleaned it up at all. It's pretty dirty. The one that he showed me in a photo was from a manual car, so I'm a little bit annoyed that this one isn't. Not a big deal. We do this on the E60 M5 all the time. You just get the Dremel, put a plastic bit in there, cut this piece out, and thankfully the sound deadening, whatever this dusty crap that I'll clean up is already here, already cut out. We just have to break that perforation there, and then be careful with the Dremel as not to cut into that. So that'll finish the Euro dash. I already have the hardware, the little 10 mil and the washers that go here. Just have to clean this up and cut out the clutch pedal. Okay, that's all I got here. It is 8:40 p.m. I need to get home and help my dad install a hot water heater because I would love to take a nice warm shower.